Good morning and welcome to the Trading to the Tech Show. This is Derek with iLi Academy. Today is Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. And today was an interesting day in the market. The stock market actually did quite well today. The last I saw, I think it was up about 460 some odd points on the day. So definitely rebounded well above the 28,000 mark now. So there's definitely it's still quite volatile because, last week, we had some sell-off going on, and then it was expected that that was going to continue, but now the bulls have come in and kind of taken over and given us some gains for at least for today. So we're going to see how the rest of the week turns out. Some of that may have been due to the fundamental news today as well. We typically don't go over that here on this show. We'll go over that in the morning at 6 a.m. my time and 5 a.m. Eastern time on the Daily Market Overview show. So we look forward to that, just checking out what happened in the news. And, like I was saying early this morning in that show, I was saying that, we were going to get some volatility in the market. And it looks like, this week was a little different because in the last few weeks, it's been a little bit slow, at least fundamentally at the start of the week, and then, kind of picking up later in the week. But I figured that we would get some volatility going on during today's session, or yesterday's session anyway, and that that would carry us through the beginning of the week. So it's going to be a good week to be in there catching some of that volatility and making some trades. And some of our auto traders did very, very well. We were in the yen pairs. We were talking about those yen pairs. We looked at them this morning on the Daily Market Overview show as we picked up some of those trades, and they were doing exactly as prescribed. So being that it's early in the week, I'm going to go through each of the charts here, try to get through them pretty quickly. My actual internet for the house is down, so I'm using my cell phone internet, which I don't get a lot of each and every week when I pay. So I'm going to try to get through the show, nevertheless, and just kind of quickly go through some of the charts and just see where we are at this point in time and see what the trade opportunities are. So bear with me if I'm going a little quickly. If you're familiar with my style and you're familiar with the trading strategies that we use, this should be a real piece of cake for you. So it shouldn't be something that, is very foreign to you at all. So looking at this Aussie CAD, let's take a look here. We're trading off to the right here, right? You can see if we put a little line here, maybe in the top, and then we're going to draw another line here on the bottom for some support. So we've got our support and our resistance lines kind of going here just to get close. Doesn't have to be some accurate picture. It just has to capture most of the trades or most of the candlesticks here. This is a 30-minute chart. So most of the candlesticks are happening within this range, right? Down here at the bottom support, we've got 95.16. At the top, we've got about 95.42. So in between that range is where we'd be trading right now. We're trading just back and forth. Now, out of Australia, there was some news that's due to come out as well, too. So I'd be mindful of that as we trade along here because they had news coming out this week. So for the Aussie yen, we are actually in trend to the upside based on the moving averages, all the moving averages except for the 720. We're just waiting for the 200 to jump over the 720 at this point in time. But we're definitely headed up. Our rate is starting to come down. It's a little bit below the 21, but it's been kind of doing that. It's been getting below the 21. Here it actually hit the 50. Here it actually tested the 50 a little bit, but we've got a little bit of a floor along that 50, and so we keep going up. So even if we come down here to the 50, that might be a buy place for us. So we're going to watch and see what happens here. I'd let it get maybe beyond the 50 and then place my order on the 50, or let it get, if it doesn't break the 50, then my order would be up here on the 21. And then once it returns to that area and keeps going up, then it should take me along for the ride. All right. So that's how I play that. As far as the Aussie New Zealand, we're flirting around here still with this 720. We haven't been able to really break above it. It's acting as a level of resistance for us. But our moving averages are in order now to the upside, right? So they were in order to the upside. The 8 jumped over the 21 a little bit. There's a little confusion there for the last few hours, but now it's back over the 21, and we got trend to the upside again, just kind of developing. So the idea here, I think, is that we're going to maybe jump to the upside, but we're just going to have to figure out whether or not this 720 is just going to prevent us from doing that, or if traders are really willing to push this a little bit further. So I'm looking for some more upside here. Rate is above the 720, so that's kind of why my bias is like that. As far as the Aussie US, we've got all of our moving averages in order except for the 720. So they're in order to the upside. The 200 though is below the 720. So we're gonna need that to jump over just to kind of confirm the real move to the upside. So it's very young, this trend. If it continues, it's just a young trend at this point in time, coming from being below and coming from a downtrend. And then we're just getting back to a point where we might have a full trend to the upside with the confirmation of the 720 being above that. But we're well above the 720 right now, and our and the moving averages look like they're kind of straightening out. So even though we're getting a little bit of consolidation here, if we get a pullback, I'm interested in buying. If not, then we're just going to continue on to the upside, and we'll wait for our opportunity to get in. As far as the CAD yen, now this is the yens that we're talking about. We had full trend to the upside on this CAD yen. We're above the 720, well above the 720, and we're just kind of cruising along to the upside here. The 8 is definitely coming down and touching the 21. Not crossing it a whole lot, but just kind of coming down and tapping the 21 a little bit. We've got rate kind of coming down, touching the 50 a few times. That's a great place for us to place our order on the 50 and have it take it with us. Have it take us with it to the upside as this continues to go. Now it could change direction. There's no telling that, when that might happen. So we're really waiting on these pullbacks, and that's why we wait for it to pull back past the moving average and then place our order on the previous moving average, or at least above the rate in a buying situation or an upward trend. This looks good to the upside for now. I don't anticipate it changing. If it does, then we have to wait kind of for our setup to the downside. But right now, I've got set up to the upside. On the Swiss yen, same story. We've got a setup to the upside. Our 200 here is just about jumping over the 720. The others have a nice sharp angle to the upside. This kind of worries me just a little bit because this angle is a little bit sharp, the way that it's kind of coming up. When rate kind of is that sharp, it tends to have a pullback. So I'd be looking for a pullback maybe here to the 50 to kind of correct and check itself just a little bit, make sure that it's going the right direction, and then dumping my order then. The 200 is just about getting over the 720. So this is going to be a young trend that's beginning. We don't have to worry about what we're missing out on, because with time, we're going to get what we're supposed to get out of the market. We don't have to really worry about missing trades. There's going to be opportunities for us, for sure. Here's the Euro Aussie. The Euro Aussie, if you look right now, we have our 720 down here below our 100. It's below the 200 as well. The 200 is kind of riding on top as well, but the 100 and the 50 are below the 200. It's just all a mess right now. This might actually straighten out. The 100 is trying to jump, the 50 is trying to jump over the 200 right now. If the 100 follows suit, we'll have full trend, but we'd probably have to get some elevation in the rate before that happens. So we're gonna have to break this level of resistance that we found. If we find some strength there, then great, but it's gonna depend on that Aussie and find out, once we find out what the Aussie is really gonna do, then it's probably gonna depend on that, because if the Aussie is gaining strength, then this is gonna be tamped down. Unless there's something specific and special about the euro that's driving it higher to outweigh what the news in the Aussie. I think they're releasing their budget tonight and all that type of stuff, or was supposed to release their budget and all that today. So that might weigh on this particular type of trade right now. So Euro Aussie, I'd be cautious. I'd be watching. The moving averages are not in order yet, really, for a trade to the upside. The only thing we might have had was a catapult order, which we did. I'll show you that really quickly. just so that you can see these opportunities when they come. We had this straddle of the 50. So our blue moving averages are 50. And then we had a close above the 50 and an open below it. So this moving average went right through the body of the 50. The second candle did close green, even though this is a big wick, it did close green. So we put our cursor right on that candle. We find out the close was at 163.62. And since we're buying, we're gonna add 10 pips. We go to 163.72, and that would have been our order place. So let me go and find out where that is. 163.72 is right about there. So that's where we would end up. That's where our order would have been placed. You can see that there's one, after that candle closes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles before we're placed in the order. So we had a couple hours, 2.5 hours before we actually would have been placed in the order. It backed off a little bit to the 8 moving average, and from there it's just been up. And right now we're at 164.04, but we went as high as 164, probably about almost 15, 164.14 or so. So we got a decent amount of pips out of that, 30 to 40 pips out of it, just running the catapult trade. And, you know, we could be getting more if we just really kind of broke our trade even and, you know, using the moving average as our place to break even and to kind of keep track of the trade, then we'd probably still be in this trade. Even though it's moved down some, we'd still be in it. So it's really up to you how quickly you want to close that out. But we get that run quite a bit sometimes, especially when we're going into trend. And that's kind of looks like what we've got here. So I want to take advantage of that as much as possible, you know, and just kind of riding these trends out. I think it's a great opportunity for us if everything continues to shape up the way it looks. For the Euro CAD, we are above the 720 here. Our 200, our 100 a little out of order, but they're kind of headed towards each other. I think there should be a collision there at some point here. The rest of the moving averages are in order to the upside. And we've got kind of some green growing there. We've got some higher lows going on here. So I feel like we're going to continue to the upside here. I think there's a lot of potential to the upside. If we look back here, this area was an area of resistance before for us. So if we break this area of resistance here, there's a lot of room here to the upside. So we didn't consolidate until we got up here in this area. The low area is about 157.12 to about 157.20s or so. So the low 157s is where we would go. And right now we're at 156.27. So there's a lot of room to the upside, even on this 30-minute chart, once we break, you know, about 136.40 or so. Or 156.40, I'm sorry, not 136, 156. So I'm looking for trades to the upside. Rate is above the 720. And then I'm looking for these moving averages to kind of straighten out. And then any pullbacks, I'm interested in buying there. On the Euro Swiss, moving averages are not quite in order here yet. You can see that here. We've got the 50 just jumping over the 100, but the 100 is well below the 720 and the 200. So, you know, and then we've got our 21 and our 8 up top in order. So it's just a little out of whack right now. We're going to wait until that straightens out a little bit before we would go into that trade up top here for a trend type trade, something like a platinum auto trader would be looking for. We'd wait on that. Now, as far as the catapult goes, we didn't really kind of get it here officially because we got these straddles to the upside. We got, oh, here's a great example. I'm gonna blow this up for you here just a little bit so you can see it. All right, here's a good example of what we mean by how we're protected with this particular trade. Now, since typically we're gonna do it in the direction that if we're changing direction, that's the direction we're gonna try to trade in. So we don't take all of the straddles. We're looking for specific ones. So as we come along here, we're moving to the upside. We're changing direction a little bit to the upside. We got this green straddle, but the next candle was a straddle to the downside, right? So we could possibly take this, but technically this is a rebound back to the 50 on this downward trend. So this is a little bit late for a short trade here. I wouldn't take the catapult here. But if you look at it, you know, just for example's sake, we did get a straddle candle here in red. The next candle did close as a red candle. The close was at 107.62. So we would subtract 10 pips. since we'd be going short. So we're talking 107.52. So I'm going to put my crosshair down here around the 107.52 area. So this is the level that we would have gotten in at, that 157.52 area down here. We see the rate never actually came down here. So we would have never gotten involved in the trade. All we would do as it continued to go higher was delete the trade that we entered, delete the pending order. We don't go in a market order just for that particular reason. We want to make the market go in our direction before we would take the trade. So that was just for example's sake, so you can see kind of what it looks like, you know, on the downside, what it looks like for the market to turn away and not involve you in the trade. That's why we add the 10 extra pips. We want to see it move in our direction before it, you know, and really kind of commit to our direction before we take that order. So we did get another straddle candle here. I want you to see that as well, but the next candle was red, right? So the candle after that, you know, the red one didn't close below the 50. The next candle after that did close above the 50. So it's up to you, really. A lot of times we wouldn't take this because we had so many opportunities for Catapult. We want to just do it the right way. We just want the next candle to be green in this situation. We don't want this red candle. If we get it, then we just call it a day. But you could see where this one was profitable if you had done it off of this next candle, right? You'd probably be profitable at this point, or were profitable at some point this afternoon or so. So that was the opportunity that we had. But other than that, I'd be waiting right now. You know, if I decide to take that trade just a little bit off of the strategy itself, it's pretty much in the strategy, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's a little bit off. So I probably wouldn't have taken it, you know, but I just wanted you to see that because there's a couple of things in here that you can learn from. Euro pound, let's take a look at this. On the euro pound, let's make this a little wider. You can see that the moving averages are all below the 720 right now. The 8 and the 21 are kind of jumped over the 50 a little bit. The 8 is headed towards our 100. So this is doing something different right now. Don't say that we have trend to the downside. If I'm looking for some trades, I'm looking for these pullbacks, yeah. So right now I'd be looking for, because it's past the 100, I'd maybe be dropping an order on this 50 as a sell order, right? So right click, trade, sell, stop. That's going to place your pending order down here at 97.49, which is where this moving average is right now, right? 748, 49 is right there in that area. So if we don't turn around and come back to that level, then we don't get involved in that trade. All right. So being that we're under the 720, that's the trade that I would have at this point in time to set up. As far as the euro yen, another yen pair, you can see that moving averages are all in order to the upside. We are above the 720 now with our 200. We finally completed that today as we got the move up. And now we're getting a little bit of consolidation here across the top. So we're just going to watch and see whether we get a pullback here. And then that's our opportunity. As long as we're still above the 720, that might be our opportunity to go long on the 50 or maybe the 100. As far as the Euro New Zealand, if you look at it here, we're still out of whack here. We haven't quite created trend just yet. Our 100 is below the 200, and they're both below the 720. So we're hardly in order here yet. We're going to wait and see what happens here. We've got a place of resistance here out in front of us, right around this 177.50s area. We're getting some resistance there, and we're right now about 177.41 or so. So we're real close to this resistance. I would say kind of let this one go until it actually gets over, you know, the 720. They're real close to the 720. If it really commits, those moving averages will jump over the 720 and they'll turn up in order for us. And then we'll be more, you know, it's a more conservative trade. It's a more well-structured trade than, you know, trying to guess what's going to happen from there. Looking at this Euro US, we can see that we're in order to the upside on all the moving averages except the 720. So that's acceptable for us for long trades because rate is above the 720 and it's well above the rate, well above the 720 right now. So we're just waiting really for the 200 to jump over the 720. If we get a pullback towards the 100 or the 50 here, then I'd be interested in buying. I wouldn't buy here at the top. Some people will trade this breakout. That's a little bit tougher trade to take. I'd rather improve my price a little bit or my rate a little bit before I jump on board. As far as the pound Aussie, we've got our 720 down here hanging out on the bottom. We've got all our moving averages pretty much in order to the upside, except for the 8 right now is jumping over our 21. But this is good because now it's headed down here maybe towards this 50. So if we get down here beyond the 50, then I can place my order on the 50, or I can place my order on the 21. We can use the 21 that way as well. And then if it returns to that level, it's going to continue to take us up. We are above the 720, so my idea of a trade for this is a long trade. And that's the pound Aussie. Now the pound CAD, kind of the same thing in terms of order. And here we go. We've got our 720 down here. We've got our moving averages in order to the upside. They're pretty much in trend order. So we're just waiting for pullbacks against the, against the moving averages, against the trend. And then that's kind of like our slingshot to push us forward. If you look here, we got that same situation. We're in trend to the upside. We got a pullback, went down here, almost basically tested the 720, but we could have had our order here on the 200 or one on the 100, the 21, the 50, any of these moving averages, and we'd be profitable right now. Because when the market came back and touched those levels, it would take us with it. So you see how I'm saying, like, here's like pulling back on the slingshot, because the trend is moving upwards, it's pulling it back, and then it resumes the trend. And it's the easier trade to take, right? Now, as far as the pound Swiss, we've got trend to the upside here, but we are kind of trading off to the right. We've got some higher lows going on here for sure. That's nice. We got a little bit of a ceiling going on here, kind of just above where we are. So just below this 118.88 area, we've got a ceiling kind of going on here. We're going to see if we can break that level of resistance. So, just looking at the way this pound Swiss has been trading too, it's been a little bit choppy here, just kind of consolidating and then wham, hitting, hitting the gas a little bit and then going one direction, and then consolidating and then hitting the gas and going the other direction. And now we're just kind of consolidating again. So where do we go from here? Do we just kind of hit the gas one way or another? We just really want to be careful in this, because that's kind of what it's been doing. It's been kind of just consolidating and then accelerating, consolidating, accelerating. So we're going to watch out for that. Pound yen, like the other yen pairs, trend to the upside. All we're waiting is for pullbacks, right? Pullbacks to our 50, 100, or the 200, maybe even the 720. If we're doing that, then, our orders are going to go up high. One or two moving averages away from the rate, above the rate, and then we're looking for trades to the upside. This one paid us pretty well today. Had a couple of clients that profited off of this one like maybe 3 times off the Platinum Auto Trader today. It just wouldn't stop. So that's great. When we get in a trend like that, that's great. We can make money, right? So in the pound US, we are in the same situation as kind of like the pound yen. That's kind of what we saw there. And the pound CAD and the pound Aussie, kind of the same thing that we're looking at, but we're in full trend to the upside. We're just waiting on pullbacks. We had one here, we had one here. So had we taken one on the 21 here or on this 50 here, we'd have been in good shape. Here, we could have taken it on the 100, on the 50, or any one of the 21, and we would have been in good shape still. Lots of pips to be gained there. You can't miss when there's trends. So when people talk about trading with the trend, that's what it is. You just can't miss. Now looking at this New Zealand CAD here, we've got our 720 out here, and then we're below, the 200 is above it, the 100 is above it, but the 50, 21, and the 8 are below the 100 and the 200. It's just all kind of screwed up right now. This may turn into a downtrend. Rate is just a little bit below the 720 right now as well. So we're going to see if this support holds, and does it bounce and rebound to the upside, or does it continue down? So this is kind of, discombobulated right now. I'm not going to be interested in trading that mess when we've got some other good things that are in wide open trend. I've got some better structures set up right now. New Zealand Swiss, on this 30-minute chart, we look at where we are right now. We've got our 720 here in the middle. The 8, the 21, and the 50 are below it. The 100 is just about crossing the 200, but both of those are still above the 720. So this is a little out of order too. It's not my favorite trade to take here. I am maybe thinking trade to the downside. Rate is below the 720. We've got lower highs and we're getting lower lows, right? So we're kind of headed down here. So I'm going to let this kind of set up. I'm going to try to get my moving averages in order before I'm really interested in taking that trend to the downside. New Zealand yen. Now we've got everything above the 720. All of our moving averages above the 720. They're in order to the upside. We're getting a little bit of a pullback. We're going to see if it comes back past this 50 or touches the 50. We can maybe drop our order on the 21 just in case. But it looks like it's setting up for trend, to continue to the upside. That might be a great opportunity for us. Looking at the New Zealand US, we've got trend to the upside as far as all the moving averages, except for the 720 and the 200. The 200 looks like it's going to want to jump over this 720 here pretty soon. So we're going to see what happens here. We're in a little bit of a level of resistance. We kind of had some resistance along this white line. That's what, 66.50? Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because it's a nice round number. That 50 is a nice round number. So we're seeing probably a lot of stops at that level. We're seeing probably maybe a lot of limits at that level too. And that's what's causing it to get up here to this level and traders going, oh, okay, I don't want to be in this trade anymore. Maybe they're just afraid to push it past that point. So we're going to see if with the trend, the way that it's set up, do we push past the 66.50 and head on up? We're going to see, but it is giving us pullbacks against trend. Rate is above the 720, so my interest is in buy orders. So this might set up something for us where we can place an order on our 21 or our 50 here pretty shortly. We'll see how deep it pulls back. That one paid us a little bit today too. US dollar CAD, this one paid us as well too. I think it's still paying some of us here too on some of the auto trades too. So we see the 720 is here, rate is below the 720. We have a nice moving averages, nice trend set up in the moving averages. We know that the US dollar has been on, having weakness quite a bit. So it's kind of resumed that now after some strength that it showed maybe last week or for about a week or so. But now it's back in kind of, headed for that downtrend. The 200 is still over the 720, so we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with that. We're probably gonna get some kind of pullback at some point, but I'd be a short on this. I'd be taking a short, but I wouldn't take it here. I'm not looking here. I'm looking for it to pull back to like at least the 50, and then I'm interested in that short trade. US dollar Swiss, same thing. Trend to the downside. All we're waiting on is the 200 to jump over the 720. As rate pulls back to the 50, maybe to the 100, I'm interested in the continued short of the dollar. US dollar yen, it is a yen pair, so we're getting a little bit opposite effect. We're trying to develop trend to the upside. We've got trend on everything except for the moving averages being over the 720. 3 of them are below the 720. The 8 and the 21 are above. I don't have a lot of faith in this going up right at this moment, even though we're in trend. Just because we're just in the throes of kind of creating this. And if this breaks down, then maybe we fall because it's dollar based. It is still dollar, even though it is one of the yen pairs. And so, I don't feel like it's going to be the strongest, especially when our market, our Dow is up. Remember, there's that inverse relationship between the two. So when the Dow is going really strong or going gangbusters, a lot of times the dollar is falling. So there's that inverse correlation that we have to keep in mind. So on this, I'm not really going to risk that, because we were up 460 some odd points today in the Dow. So, I'm not really going to risk that trade at this point in time. There's plenty of other things that we're looking at in the yen pairs that look great. So I'm not going to, risk it all on this one. All right. So I hope that you're able to glean some information out of this. I hope I didn't go too fast for you. We're hitting right about 30 minutes here now, so that's a pretty decent show. That's great, but we're able to actually go through about 20 to 24 pairs in 30 minutes. So that's like a minute per pair. You can analyze your trades that quickly. So you don't have to sit and analyze your trades forever and draw all these things on your chart. You can kind of set your charts up and what you got going on. And have a couple of different strategies that you can work. You can work catapult. You can work this like trend trading strategy, like kind of pullbacks against the trend. You can work Fibonacci's. I haven't really touched Fibonacci's because we did a lot of that in the last few weeks. In the first few weeks of the show, we did a lot of Fibonacci's. So now I'm doing more of the trend work. And then I'm going to start working in the catapult for you as well. And then we'll kind of round robin those as we go. And as we get more people on the show, then we'll start to mix and match them after we, kind of drill them a little bit so that you guys get used to it as you're watching the shows. So I'm going to run here. We're right about 30 minutes. Like I said, I don't have internet in my home. I need to check that out. I've got a couple projects kind of going on, and I have to get with a client too, whose auto trader is not working for some reason. So we're going to find out what's going on with that too. So my name is Derek. Thank you for hanging out with me on the show. This is the Trading the Tech show for iLi Academy. Catch the reruns if you can in the archives, and learn your strategy so that you can get in the game. All right. Once again, my name is Derek, and I'm out for the night. I'll see you in the morning at the Daily Market Overview Show. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.